I wanted to start out this video with a little Q&A, some comments from Kevin. He's had over 100 comments through the years on my channel, and the recent comments and questions, it'll kind of put out there how I feel, why I do this. So the first one was, at this point, why do you lead yourself into the unknown? It's bizarre watching this stuff now. You constantly study into something that doesn't give you any true answers. You think you would want to get away from that. Well, this is for me personally. This all started with research from all other subjects years and years ago. And for me personally, as I studied different subjects before I got into the heated cataclysm, it takes away the things that really don't matter, fear-based things, your politics, government, which you can put those in the same thing. And politics is just violence, plain and simple. So that was the first thing that went away from me. Then the second thing was probably religion. And everybody has their own beliefs and stuff about religion, but I'm talking about the aspect of like a club, the club of religion. It's There's so many in politics. You have throughout the world different variations of politics, I guess you could say, but religion has hundreds. And if you don't do what they say, as far as the mega church guy telling you what everything is in a book or whatever, you can't join that club. And for me, everything is personally inside of you, spiritually or whatever you want to say. So, and a certain aspect of the club of religions or violence also, depending on how you perceive it and stuff. And getting back to the point, it makes you get rid of all those things that are taken away from your life, really. So you check those off the box. Then you go on down the list to history and then geology. And you can put in a lot of other things with that, but it's all fake. And when I hit the meltology, you could say, theory, that's what really did it for me for everything. Everything is a total lie. And so when you say, why do you still do this? Well, I do it because I enjoy it. I like making fun of the stupid BS we're taught. And they drilled that stuff in our heads so you could just start with fakeology for years. So if I want to talk about the same thing, it's because I enjoy it and because it makes everything else look stupid, basically, as far as the indoctrinated school system. So that's basically why I keep doing this, and I love it. I do want to emphasize, I'm just going through these questions. Like I said, Kevin has watched probably tons of my videos, and he has over 100 comments. And sometimes I don't understand some of his comments, and then other times I do. And this is not to be. On to the next one. You say in the video it's just so obvious. Why do you stay studying something that is so obvious to you? Well, number one, I like it. Number one, it opened my eyes to basically everything, even though that there was a long road before this, but I stay studying it because it is so obvious. I also stay studying it because you can get out there, outdoors, trails, climbing up hillsides, going to see supposed historic sites with new eyes. I mean, it's number one, fun for me. And number two, again, it can go back to the historical narratives on things and just laugh at it. And that's fun for me in my pastime. Next thing Kevin says, why does everyone seem so stuck? Why do people put their study time into subjects that prove to have no answers? There's so much more to our existence than simply proving history is a lie. You got to prove things that are true as well. And that's what the world blocks people from doing. The constant bombardment of nonsense is heavy. It makes you feel anchored or safe. How dare you go outside of your comfort zone? I agree with that. I mean, that's what really is the key to all the lies is nobody wants to go out of their comfort zone. And but that's also the key is to make me and everyone go outside of their comfort zone. Because honestly, most people just don't want to be lied to begin with, but we know we are, and whatever you personally, anyone out there, whether you be rather be stuck in lies and have a happy life like that, or try to figure some stuff out, even not knowing probably ever what happened or why this came to be, and even when this scorched earth happened. And lastly, it cannot be good at the end of the day of your study. Your honest answer is, I don't know. Well, that's just my honest answer because I don't know. And probably will never know. But what's the difference in going through years and years of indoctrinated school with geology, history, and all that? And it's ridiculous. They're lies. But you still don't know any of that, especially geology. So I don't know. But I will say in my mind, I do know something happened. There were huge buildings. They melted, mostly made of brick, mortar, facading, piping, metals, statues, trees, people. A huge event. For me, I know that went down. I know when I look at certain spots and mountains, those were structures. And that's just me. So anyway, Kevin, I appreciate your thoughts through the years and questions, and maybe that's not any kind of answer, but I feel like a lot of people can see what I'm thinking. So let's get into some stuff that we don't know, or you might know, just depending on how you feel. Thank you for being here. Let's get at it. I want to start out here with a few points of this article I found not too long ago. It's from South Alabama on a river. A family finds a 32 million year old sea turtle fossil. So before I get into this picture here, here's where it was found, and I think it was 2021 when it was actually discovered, right off of this river here in South Alabama. So there's a few points I want to make here. 32 million years old. Now, number one, this could be anything. Was it possibly a turtle shell? Maybe. But was it possibly a turtle shell? Possibly. But as this video rolls on, I'm going to explain why I think everything you're seeing here, all this rockiness, this supposed turtle shell and everything, maybe 300 to 400 years old before the cataclysm happened and they just plugged millions of years on it. But another point is 32 million years. When did man start? Woman? roaming the earth. I don't know. Whatever your belief is, let's just say 10,000 years. So it took 10,000 years for somebody to spot this right off this waterway here. Is that logical? And they pulled it up, and this is actually from, they posted here 2025, but it's in a museum somewhere. But here's the half the problem also. This right here, the white jacket and the clipboard, and this is what they're telling you it is. That's a major indoctrination right there. Put the white jacket and get a clipboard, and people will believe it. And one more time, this could be anything, and it's not that old. Next point I want to make here, we're in Sri Lanka. And when I first got into this, the melt study, I didn't even realize at first, or maybe it was 3 years ago, that pretty much everything we see from the old world or historical buildings or whatever, they're all made basically from brick and mortar. When you first look at stuff, you think it's just castings or made of different materials other than brick. But basically, everything was covered and it was brick internals, which is pretty amazing that everything was made from brick, basically, and then a covering put over it. Immense structures and statues, just crazy architecture, simply from bricks, columns, everything. So, what we're seeing is just post cataclysm, what these structures and statues and columns look like. And it just had brick internals. What I've seen most of the time with the old world pillars and columns like this, you'll see a facading on the outside or a covering, but it's all internal brick. And also through the event, it made these types of things change into different stones, different types of matter, but everything here was brick. Underneath this statue here and what it's sitting on, it's brick inside of it. The obvious brick down here, which makes you think all this is also brick. Really be cool just to see how this was put together. Just this one structure right here. All the ornate detail. Here's the columns, bricks. How was this put together? Where did they cook all these bricks? Who put them together? How many donkeys? How many people? The means they tell us back then, obviously, it just doesn't make any sense. And especially when you look at stuff like this, it's amazing. It's huge. Who knows how many bricks this is? It's crazy. Just a couple of shots from Spain. Just want to make a couple of points here of the build and what they try to make people think of as far as building all this around all the rock. But there's no reason to put this line of bricks through here and out this way. It's just all combined. It was all the same thing. You can see a different transition from here to here, and then you get this spot here heated completely different and more than these two. Just say these two spots here. Wow. Look, you can see the same coloring in the rock here as the buildings. This is totally ridiculous as far as somebody or some king or whoever coming to build these towers on these rocks. All you have to do is look closely and tell yourself, okay, it's either one or the other. We're building on mountains or the mountain is the building. There's really no in between. Next, I want to go over a few pictures from Jordan. And for me, it's just a small example of when I personally think this all went down as far as the melt. I want to thank John at Pockets of Survival channel for this clip. But here's my thinking on the time period. So just one example in Petra, They say they got their chisels together around 2,600 years ago, did their thing into the natural mountain, and over time, different stories and narratives started to build with man-made bricks and blocks and things like that. And to make a long story short, there was a earthquake. So there was a period of 1,800 years or so or more after this earthquake. They say it was abandoned. And all of a sudden in 1812, it was rediscovered. How does it go missing that long? The point of that is there's a lot of stuff you could be talking about. Your hometowns everywhere are founded, erected, established, whatever. Always around 1700s or 1800s. And this is a prime example of that case, which there's just thousands and thousands of cases like this, but this specific one makes zero sense. Let's just get past the whole chiseling thing and all the other stuff. But it just lay dormant for hundreds and hundreds of years and just popped back up in 1812. That's the main reason, not just Petra, but all cases of being founded or whatever and just sitting there, or supposedly wasn't sitting there, and then have all these founders with top hats and all of a sudden there's just buildings everywhere. But that's the reason I think this event happened not that long ago. And just looking closely at some of these pictures in Petra, you can see the ornate detail barely left over. But what's really going on here, and you always look to the left and the right really closely. They can be real close together, and most of the time, very different in nature as far as the structure of it and the meltiness of it, the changed state of matter. Why does this over here not look like this over here? And some of these pics are famous pics now, but they weren't famous pics when I was young. I didn't start seeing any kind of stuff like this until about 5 years ago. But there's no excuse of believing this was chiseled. That's just insane. Number one. Number two, look with your eyes. And you're rolling into specific pictures like this, all this blobbing over, melting over on itself, all this building here. And you zoom in to this window, we'll just call it a window, chiseling to absolutely nowhere. Maybe this was where they sat and you could put your drink right here. That's why it's a window to nowhere. Places like this, Turkey, Petra, hardly any vegetation or no vegetation. And if there was no vegetation anywhere across this realm, this is basically what everything would look like. This is barely a leftover column. All this drooping over, melting over. The whole thing was a brick structure. The heat and energy that did this, pretty crazy. But it happened. And when you have barely left over pieces of the structure intermingled with nature, I mean, that's why they tell you the dumb narrative chiseling. But here was the structure, the columns. You can still see them left over here, and all the mortar lines, all the melting effect everywhere. Here's more of the structure left over. Comparing 1, 2, 3. This was supposedly chiseled at the same time. I mean, I know it took hundreds of years to chill this, right? But how did this affect this tower over here differently than this one and this one? Not weather, earthquakes, heated cataclysm. That changed everything. This is barely left over. It's just one of the more easier places to see if you're starting out in this subject, you can tell that something extreme happened, and they just try to make you believe blindly of a rock hammer, chisel, almost gone, but not quite. The heat, you could see the line affecting everything differently. It basically affected all of this around it in the background the same, unrecognizable almost, and just left little specks of this, and they had to explain it with an insane chisel. It really is something else looking at it. And they'll tell you this was 1,000 years later after they started chiseling all this, and they started building with blocks and bricks and stuff all around it. It was all the same thing at whatever time period. And the only way they can explain it is if we, the people, are idiots. I like this shot because it shows the horse and cart that was supposed to chisel all this out 2,500 years ago. Just imagine that. I know you can't really imagine that because it makes 0 sense and impossible. How did they get away with this for so long? They really didn't get away with it, they just hid it. This kind of stuff should be indoctrinated schools, not the other 7 wonders of the world they barely show us. Here's a pyramid. Another shot of how this supposedly came to be with these guys right in here. I'm sure there's a toolbox of chisels in there. At least that's what they would have done back in the day, what they told us through the narrative. We'll never know. Wait a minute. Yeah, we will. Look, here's a fantasy plaque right there, just for you and me. This right here tells you everything you need to know about this. Just move on to the next plaque. The bricks always reveal themselves. They don't go anywhere. There's too many of them. That's why it makes their story, narratives on anything ridiculous. Because nothing matches up. Nothing makes sense to make it match up. So Petra here and brick. 100% brick, just everywhere. I could go on and on with Petra, but I just wanted to make those few comments about when I think this happened realm wide. And never forget, this was chiseled. I wanted to conclude here just a couple more things. This is from Heavenly National Monument in Utah. It's one of my favorite pictures from that area. But the building aspect of this and trying to make sense of the narrative they tell you, how does any of this make any sense? Thinking logically, you have flat land everywhere. Or at least not like this land. That's extremely hard to get up, especially however long ago. What's going on? This spot over here is really comical. You have this slanted supposed rock, huge, and you're going to do this over here. You could have put it right here. That'd have been more logical. But no, we're gonna do one there, and then we're gonna come over here and do this, and we're gonna kind of intermingle it with the rock. Or you can just believe the plaque in the history book. And this right here, this piece, this block, it's probably about, let's just say, 30 normal bricks and it fused into this. All of these blocks were bricks, mini bricks combined together. That's how I see it. This part here, you have multiple layers: brick turned to rock, brick, and then you'll have little pieces of burnout brick, or it could be some kind of rock material. A better narrative for something like this would, back in the day, they had their kids, it was playtime, and they picked up these rocks and somehow intermingled them with all the boulders in between the rocks and stuff. That would be more believable, but it still would be insane. It's just a structure, it changed. Neat from the bottom up. All this rubble everywhere, all around it. Somehow this survived because nobody came up here and built this right here. Check that out. This rock used to look like this, but this actually used to look like brick. And very quickly, just a little piece of how they hide history. The introduction of kudzu at the 1876 Centennial Exposition in Philadelphia. And they say that the government in the 1930s pushed kudzu really hard. Now this is what we have everywhere, covering everything, and you can't really tell what's under it. Never goes away. It dies for a few months, but even when it dies, it's so viney, you can't even get close to anything. So from 1876 till now, this is how much kudzu covers the U.S. So I guess I'm going to wrap it up, guys. I appreciate everybody being here. Thank you, everyone. Peace within, and I'll see you next time.